Hello, I'm Nima Rajan, and welcome to Northwest Newsweek. Fort Frances Council has finally passed a resolution outlining the town's stance regarding the sale of the idled Resolute Mill. Now, earlier this month, the motion was deferred twice. First, after Council had received legal threats from the company, and again last week to allow for Council to discuss the motion fully. On Monday, a slightly revised motion was passed, which demands Resolute allow bidders to speak with government, allow for sufficient time for bids to be submitted, inform the town in confidence of the identity of the bidders, and comply with the terms of the Sustainable Forest License. The town argues that Resolute has no intention of selling the facility to a bidder who wishes to restart the mill, and instead wants to sell to a demolition company and keep the wood rights to the Crossroot Forest. Mayor June Cole says so far no one from Resolute have contacted them since the resolution passed, but the town has spoken with its provincial representative, who is Greg Rickford.
We did have a call in with Mr. Rickford, and he is consciously trying to get help for us and to push to have something done so that this mill can be sold. He's committed to doing that. There has been no one who has contacted us or that we've been in conversation with who say, don't worry, we're going to get this taken care of. We're going to get the SFL back.
The resolution also calls on Premier Doug Ford and Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry John Yakabuski to support the town in its fight. Companies wishing to put a bid on the mill have until March 15th to do so, but must sign a non-disclosure agreement with Resolute. The town says that prevents bidders from speaking to them or the province about wood rights. This week, the Ford government rolled out details of its planned overhaul of the provincial healthcare system. The plan will amalgamate several existing agencies, such as Local Health Integration Networks, eHealth Ontario, and Cancer Care Ontario, into one new super agency called Ontario Health. Here locally, that's a concern that the Ford government's plan will pave the way for further privatization of healthcare services. Chair of the Local Health Coalition, Jules Tupker, notes that he still needs to hear more details about the PC's plan, but he's skeptical that the move will streamline the system and improve patient care, and he fears that this will simply open the door for big business to infiltrate Ontario's health system. It's also a concern that is also shared by Liberal MPP Michael Gravel.
If you read between the lines, it looks like this super agency is going to give them the power to basically delegate health services to different organizations. And there's nothing that says they won't do it to private organizations. I know the government is saying they're not going to do that. It's not going to be privatized. But there's nothing in the legislation that says they can't do it and to send it to private organizations.
To set up a super agency, as it's being called, to deliver health care, to bring under that umbrella all the agencies that are being recommended, including the Local Health Integration Networks, is a daunting task. Whether or not this will ultimately improve the delivery of health care is still very much up in the air. I still have great concerns about the increasing of privatized health care.
Gravel notes it's also unclear whether the move will lead to job losses at the Local Health Integration Networks and other organizations that are planned to be dissolved into Ontario Health. Ontario's Aboriginal Affairs Minister Greg Rickford was on the defensive at Queen's Park this week regarding the role of the province in helping resolve the crisis in Cat Lake. The remote First Nation declared a state of emergency in January after numerous homes were infested with black mold. The problem led to major health issues and skin rashes on the residents there, including many young children. The federal government agreed last week to spend more than $11 million to repair or build 47 homes. But the community also wants the province to send a health assessment team of medical professionals to Cat Lake immediately. Opposition leader Andrea Horwath is calling on the Ford government to do its part, rather than shifting all of the blame to Ottawa.
We're calling on the federal government now to take action. We'll continue to support this community in its declaration of emergency by coordinating with our stakeholders, hopefully finding some solutions, Mr. Speaker, but ultimately this rests with the federal government and their responsibility.
Opposition come to order.
New homes for those people and remedy the homes that are there in that community so that people have a safe, clean environment to live in.
I
have to say that I'm fairly disgusted by that response. When you see the pictures of those kids that are suffering and a minister who pretends that there's no jurisdictional squabble, and then his first answer, his first response is that it's a jurisdictional squabble, putting it over to the federal government as their responsibility. There are treaties that have been signed. Ontario is a signature to the treaty that requires us to get involved in healthcare issues on reserve, and that's what needs to happen here. The minister needs to step up to the plate and do the right thing.
Money is tight for municipalities across the province, and it's making things very difficult for the decision makers in those communities. But in spite of that, the outlook is still very positive for the municipality of Greenstone. Adam Riley reports.
Budget season continues in communities across the Northwest. In Greenstone, a major hurdle has been overcome, which came in the form of the approval last week by the province to continue with assistance through the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. Greenstone Mayor Renaud Beaulieu says OMPF money is key to the survival of the municipality.
Those are the kind of monies that we're looking at that we can feed, because our community needs new infrastructure. It's not a luxury, it's a must. It's like things are falling apart.
Beaulieu stresses Greenstone isn't the only community with infrastructure woes in Ontario, adding in 2018 the community did over $1 million of new infrastructure work. Part of the problem, according to Beaulieu, is also what makes Greenstone so unique. Multiple communities spread out over a large area, requiring repeat services.
We don't talk about one arena. We don't talk about one Zamboni. We talk about 4 Zambonis. We talk about 4 of everything, whether it's the arena, whether it's the fire department, whether it's the waterworks. It doesn't matter. That's what we're faced with. So this council has some tough decisions to make.
The municipality is also working to improve public safety within the community, as there's been a rise in incidents in Greenstone that require police intervention or investigation.
There's been a lot of break-ins in our area, and it's not just here, it's right across the north, as you know. So we're hoping to improve on that by having a better presence of the police force and having our police involved and us as a municipality and our First Nations and our people involved in helping out.
Greenstone OPP Constable Brian Frost says while he cannot comment on specific cases in the area, he can say a multi-agency working group has been established to combat the issues.
That group brings together the OPP, our First Nations policing partners, the mayor and council of Greenstone, as well as chiefs and councils from the surrounding First Nations communities, to come together and to discuss some of the community issues and the impact that it's having on the community.
Frost says the working group isn't just a temporary measure, as it will be just as important in the future as it is now. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A big announcement from the Conservative Party for the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding, as they announced their candidate for the upcoming federal election.
Our candidate for the upcoming 2019 federal election, and our next member of parliament for the riding of Thunder Bay Rainy River, Linda Ridholm.
After taking a pass to run at the federal level many times before, Linda Ridholm will join Andrew Scheer's Conservative team. She says the party will help people get ahead and not just get by. After serving 18 years on City Council and 9 on the Lakehead School Board, Ridholm notes that the two local ridings tend to elect Liberals, but she feels that the party's current ethical issues would change the vote this time around.
People in Canada, not just Thunder Bay and Rainy River, are looking for hope with their lifestyle, affordable lifestyle. I think they're looking for ethical people who will govern in Ottawa. Businesses shouldn't be above the law, right? Whether it's Lavalin or any other business. Businesses should not be above the law, nor should politicians in a Canadian democracy.
Ridholm says she plans to tour the riding leading up to the October election. Dryden's fire department is recruiting, almost a year after a dispute between the city and the firefighters ended with several members quitting and the city implementing a new service model. That new model is a combination of paid per-call members and college graduates gaining work experience. Fire Chief Ryan Morrell says a recruiting drive in the aftermath of last year's dispute was very successful and brought the entire service up to a complement of just over 30 members. He adds the aim of this year's recruiting drive is to bolster the numbers at Hall 2, located on Highway 17 in the former Barclay Township.
Members out there that could retire We also have members that are out there that aren't attending as much as they used to. And because of that, that's just the nature of a volunteer nowadays, or a paid per call member. We don't have members that we obligate them to attend more than 50% of training and 50% of calls in a year. We want to have a good mix out there. Our preferred number out there would be 15 to 20 members.
Morel says Hall 2 currently has 11 members, well below the fire service's target. The recruiting drive is slated to start this month. The Provincial Crown Attorney's Office has decided not to appeal a judge's ruling to stay the first-degree murder charge against 26-year-old Adam Capet. Capet walked out of the Thunder Bay courthouse on January 28th, essentially a free man. He spent almost 7 years in pretrial custody, including 1,600 days in solitary confinement. Justice John Frigeau said Capet's treatment was outrageous, abhorrent, and inhumane when he made the decision to stay the charges. Details of Frigeau's ruling were part of a widespread publication ban that was lifted once the Crown announced its decision this week not to contest the stay. Capet was placed in segregation following the death of 35-year-old Sherman Quissis, who was stabbed in the neck by Capet in June of 2012. The court ruled that Capet's charter rights were violated as he spent years in a plexiglass cell with lights on 24 hours a day with no radio, television, or telephone. One criminology expert at the hearing compared Capet's treatment to a level of torture. The family of Quissis says the lack of a trial in a case means they've now had to experience multiple injustices. A handful of recent snowmobile rescues has prompted the OPP to issue a warning to residents to use extra caution when they go out on area lakes. With the excess snow this winter has brought, OPP has seen an increase in machines stuck in the slush, and as a result, more people needing the OPP's help after dark. Sergeant Mike Golding says this is a big issue when officers are heading out to unknown lakes to rescue people who are cold, wet, and have been struggling to get out for hours already.
Temperatures that have been dropping the last couple of days, minus 25, minus 30 at night. You can imagine if you spent the day being wet and now suddenly you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and no heat, things can start to change real quickly, and now suddenly it's become a life-threatening situation. If you have one machine that's not stuck, best off not to bring that into the position where it's going to get stuck, and now you have two people stuck and unable to get out of that situation. Keep one vehicle away and do what you can, but at some point in time, if you have that extra vehicle to get out to a safe spot or a warm spot, that's probably the smart thing to do.
Golding adds that people heading out on the lake need to do their research, stick to marked trails, and be prepared to stay on the lake overnight. Extra clothing, an axe, water, and snacks should be included in your backpacks. Coming up after the break, experts in housing construction gathered in Thunder Bay to display and discuss ways of improving housing in First Nation communities. The 17th annual First Nations Housing Conference kicked off in Thunder Bay this week. More than 300 attendees from all across Canada have gathered to look at better ways to improve home construction on their reserves. Alana Pickerel reports.
It was a full house at the Valhalla Inn to kick off the three-day event. The conference gives First Nation housing professionals, government, and industry leaders a chance to network and collaborate on housing initiatives. MC Jonathan Gregg says it's all about networking and learning from others.
It's just important so that everyone has an equal opportunity to learn how to build right, how to build to code, and for fire safety. I have seen their standard of constructability and meeting the National Building Code have raised significantly.
On top of the regular workshops, demonstrations, and exhibitors, the Housing Conference is also recognizing 4 First Nations that have gone above and beyond to improve their housing conditions. Muskrat Dam First Nation won their 3rd award this year for building 2 triplexes in 9 weeks. Beausoleil First Nation on Georgian Bay won their first ever award, and housing manager Amanda Mixmung says it was quite surprising.
Well, we were doing some construction projects back to back, 3 in particular. We did a 6-plex, 5 units, and 7 homes. It's very honoring for our community.
Wajushk Onigam Nation near Kenora constructed 2 energy-efficient triplexes to win their award, and North Caribou Lake honored contractor Gary Benson for his role in their community's success.
Actually recognizing Gary Benson, he's a construction manager in the North Caribou First Nation. He's been doing it for, every answer I get is a long time, but we estimate around over 30 years. North Caribou's done a great job of striving to improve their housing and housing conditions.
Alana Pickerel, TVT News.
The First Nations Housing Conference continued in Thunder Bay on Wednesday. Participants brought out their toolboxes and hammered their way to victory in the Builders Challenge, which served as a precursor to a major announcement about a new housing association. Ben Nesbitt has the story.
Day 2 of the 17th annual conference was highlighted by the announcement of Canada's first ever First Nations housing community. The association is an extension of the 13 members from tribal councils across Ontario who have helped put on the housing conference. The goal is to support First Nations communities in managing housing programs nationwide, as well as bridge the gap with government and industry. Spokesperson Clarence Meekus says this will allow collaboration between First Nations communities across Canada.
Access to expert advice, learning from each other's experiences. When we come to an event like this, there are 8 provinces represented here, First Nations from 8 provinces. We all have different experiences, different challenges, and we can learn from each other through sharing, networking at this event, but also access to an online portal where there can be peer-to-peer opportunities to discuss challenges or to share successes.
The event also featured the annual Builders Challenge. It consisted of learning the proper installation of a chimney, geared at teaching the participants the importance of following the proper procedures. Longtime host of the event, Jan Eeks, says with the majority of attendees being administrators who oversee housing projects as opposed to doing the hands-on work, this helps them gain more of an overall understanding and appreciation of the work.
When the workmen come to the band and say, I've really got to have the right fasteners, and they cost more, they're not going to have a fight, because they say, that's right, without the right fasteners, that chimney may slide into the house. We've got to get everything just right like that. All of these little details, when the whole community can appreciate the need for those details, then we can actually have quality construction.
Ben Nesbitt, TVT News.
It's been just over a year since it was announced that Atikokan's High School would be getting a major renovation thanks to some provincial dollars. And officials with the school board say everything is on track for the 2020-2021 school year. In January of 2018, then Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Bill Morrow announced the province would be providing just over $23 million to renovate the Atikokan High School, turning it into a K-12 school, allowing the Rainy River District School Board to close North Star Community School and declare it surplus. Director of Education Heather Campbell says the project is currently in the design and planning phase, which needs to be completed before going to tender.
With our building committee, which is comprised of various stakeholders from both North Star Community School and Atikokan High School. And we're working through the design phase. It's a very long process. Certainly we have to take into account the combination of kindergarten to grade 12 and all the specialized programming that Atikokan High School has to offer.
Campbell says the board isn't predicting any delays in the project, which when completed will serve 312 students. Coming up next, we visit Marathon, where a mother and her daughters are keeping the joy of cinema alive. A family of 4 women has come together to keep one of the last movie theaters in northwestern Ontario going. Marathon Town Councillor Chantel Zingraw, along with her 2 sisters and their mother, recently began running the Odeum Theatre. It's the last movie house still operating between Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie. Alana Pickrell reports.
Big bright eyes, really excited.
That's the expression Chantel Zingraw says she sees on the kids' faces when they come to the Odeum Theatre in Marathon. Zingraw says when the former owner announced she would be retiring last year, the decision to take over was a family one.
We had always been theater goers, so we're getting worried that, if nobody takes it, there's going to be no theater in town, and we just kind of decided after going over it over supper, decided to throw our names in and see what happens.
In addition to the theater, Zingraw says they have also taken over operations of the snack bar, which is open during both the movies and when hockey tournaments come to town. So far, the reaction from residents has been positive, with attendance ranging in size of 2 people to over 100, and the theater has reached audiences beyond the town's boundaries.
We have a really good clientele, lots of people who come regularly. People come from Terrace Bay, from Manitouwadge, from the surrounding First Nations. It's really nice to see and keeps us going.
And what does Zingraw have to say about the whole operation being a family affair?
It's really nice. It's really brought us together. We always had supper together pretty regularly. Now we've got our regular family time, but now we go to work together too. So it's been nice that way.
Officials with the town of Marathon are looking into the possibility of building a new rec center, as the current building is close to 50 years old. But until the new rec center is built, it's showtime at the Zingraw Girls Odeum Theatre. Alana Pickrell, TVT News.
Following the early success of their Dine Wise program here in the city of Thunder Bay, the District Health Unit is now planning to expand it to other rural communities. The program, launched back in January of 2017, provides food safety grades to eating establishments to ensure the proper regulations are being met. The grading system includes letters A through D, and since its inception, Thunder Bay restaurants have seen a 54% decrease in food safety infractions. And now, the health unit's manager of environmental health says they're ready to expand to other communities.
Prior to now, it has been confined just to the city of Thunder Bay, but with new regulations, we're now able to extend the Dine Wise system into the rest of the district. And we don't need any municipal enabling bylaws or anything. We can just implement it across our district, and then everyone in our district will get the same benefits as the people in the city of Thunder Bay.
The rollout will be a gradual process throughout the year and will include all communities served by the District Health Unit, from Uppsala to Marathon. And that's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Be sure to join us later next week for a new episode. I'm Nima Rajan. Take care.